Support WrestleTalk!
Give us a subscribe. In what many rated the best match of WrestleMania 36 weekend, Rhea Ripley took on Charlotte Flair for the NXT Women's Championship, designed to make Ripley a star in the eyes of the main roster audience. So, naturally, Charlotte beat her. The Omni Flair. Woo. When asked about this being a terrible decision, likely setting back Ripley's star power for a year, Triple H said on a conference call, ye of little patience, this will all make sense down the line. Flair then had a title run in NXT, didn't put anyone over, and lost the belt without even being pinned. Again, all hail the Omni Flair. It marked the turning point for one of the fastest rising stars in the company. On the 18th of December last year, Ripley beat Shayna Baszler to win the NXT Women's Championship in one of the show's highest rated segments. Now, just under a year later, her main event title match against Io Shirai last month was amongst the lowest. And now Ripley herself has revealed just how much the Flair burial affected her personally in an interview with Lillian Garcia on her Chasing Glory podcast. It did feel like the wind was taken out. I felt like I went through a stage where I was losing confidence in myself because I wasn't portrayed the same way. Even now, I'm still slowly building myself back up from it. My confidence was tainted a little, which sucks because I try to keep it up and do my best all the time. I don't know if it was something in my head that wasn't getting the picture, I just got a little bit lost after that. Ripley is now part of Team Shotzi for this weekend's
War Games,
which might be how NXT scored a rare victory over AEW in the viewing figures. Last week's TV ratings were delayed due to Thanksgiving, so we're only just finding out now that NXT beat AEW Dynamite by 2,000 viewers last Wednesday, with each show drawing 712,000 and 710,000 viewers respectively. AEW still continued the trend of drawing higher numbers in the 18 to 49 demographic though, scoring a .26 rating, with NXT drawing a .16 rating. But with AEW promoting its Winter is Coming pay-per-view-like card for tomorrow night's show, with the huge Moxley vs Omega AEW title match, and NXT getting a go-home show for TakeOver
War Games,
which rather complacently has no matches announced in advance, it'll be the last major ratings battle of 2020. The NWA's Director of Operations, Maureen Tracy, has revealed on Twitter she will be leaving the promotion as of today. Tracy was reportedly incredibly well liked backstage, with former NWA alumni Ricky Starks tweeting his appreciation, saying, "Let it be known this lady is the heart of NWA. No one else. No one has done more than her." It's been a turbulent year for the NWA, which saw several of its talent leave the company, including Ricky Starks and Eddie Kingston to AEW and Stu Bennett to NXT, as well as former Vice President Dave Lagana resigning due to allegations of sexual assault. But now it's time for a review of last night's episode of Raw in about 5 minutes. The show opened with Randy Orton making his second appearance on A Moment of Bliss, this time with added creepy doll in a cage on the set. Nope, just turn around, Randy. Walk right out of there. It was obviously a fiend trap, so Randy said, "Nuh-uh, it's actually an Orton trap," to which Bliss said, "Nuh-uh, maybe not. It still could be a fiend trap." This segment went on for a while, but it did add an interesting psychological layer to the Orton versus Fiend feud. Randy was out there to fiend the Find's weakness. Definitely said that right. Just like how he found Bray's weakness before, burning his house down and getting all sexy with the ashes. And this time Randy reckons the Fiend's weakness is Bliss. So when the lights shut off and came back up, Orton was holding Bliss in his arms. The Fiend begged for her and Orton handed her over. This was really intriguing, presenting the Fiend as the misunderstood monster babyface. There's love inside that guy. And what I found most interesting, how it's Alexa who might be the smartest person in the room, manipulating them all. In the latest advertised climax to their feud, don't you dare get my hopes up, Jeff Hardy took on Elias in a Symphony of Destruction match, which involves lots of instruments around the ring to use for weapons. There were silly spots galore, with Elias using plectrums as brass knuckles, Elias accidentally electrocuting himself with an amplifier, and Jeff hitting an insanely dangerous swanton bomb off the top of the ring post through a table outside, where the back of his head seemingly landed on the bottom steel step. Ricochet took on the most ridiculously named of the biker mice from Farts next, Slapjack, where he took most of the match despite the rest of Retribution interfering, but Slapjack snuck a win at the end. That's 3 back-to-back victories for the faction. Well done, guys, you really go— Oh no, it's a 3-match push! After Reckoning took Dana Brooke out ahead of Survivor Series 2 weeks ago, Brooke beat her here in minutes, despite Ali trying to distract Dana on the outside. Reckoning got a pre-match promo, but no entrance, and her mask fell off immediately in the match. Following the loss, Ali shouted at Reckoning in the ring, saying there's no failure in Retribution. Have you been watching the last 3 months of Retribution, Ali? That's your whole gimmick. With Mercedes Martinez being unceremoniously dropped from the faction shortly before the draft, there's now speculation Reckoning could be on her way out of Retribution too, which, to be honest, would be much better for her as simply Mia Yim on the main roster. What do you want to see next for Retribution? Let me know in the comments down below, where William Regal will be replying from out of nowhere saying,
War Games!
And the Raw Women's division could sure do with some Yim, because it's currently stuck in a Lana vortex. The singles and tag belts are entirely consumed by a comedy storyline that's long past its sell-by date, had a terrible finish at Survivor Series, and, worst of all, is incapable of a payoff worthy of all this time. The storyline would work if it was someone who can actually go, like Mandy Rose, but Lana isn't a good enough worker to be a top wrestler in the division. She got worked over for the majority of her second tag match with Asuka against Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler, but fluked to win when Asuka knocked Baszler out with a knee, meaning we've had 2 back-to-back pinfall losses for Shayna in 2 weeks. Kofi Kingston celebrated Xavier Woods being the new G4 host, which was a genuinely cool accomplishment for him, so WWE booked him to lose in a rare singles match against Cedric Alexander. The match was good for the short time it went, but what was more interesting was how Cedric stormed off in victory afterwards, leaving a slightly miffed MVP and Shelton Benjamin in the ring, potentially already sowing seeds of dissension in the Hurt Business. Because heaven forbid you'd want a team to stay together. Bobby Lashley, meanwhile, started a feud with Matt Riddle later in the show. Hopefully that'll be a more serious MMA-influenced feud, getting Riddle away from the awful comedy WWE is scripting him right now. He's managed to coast by on charm so far, but it's almost like creative are seeing how badly they can write one man with some terrible jokes about AJ Styles being a cute bunny backstage. They fought each other and Keith Lee in a sudden death triple threat #1 contenders match at the top of the second hour. If you're confused about what a sudden death triple threat match is, it's a normal triple threat match. It's a shame this wasn't the main event, as I was genuinely excited for it, and the 3 men put on an action-packed 10-minute match with some really cool spots. As the third hour is always the lowest rated part of Raw, it's almost like 3 hours is a bad idea. This will at least have been the most watched bit of the show. It felt over too soon with AJ pinning Riddle off a phenomenal forearm. It's a shame they didn't elevate someone new, but at least it had a clean finish. The actual main event instead went to a night-long promoted interview segment with Drew McIntyre, where he said nothing of note, and a Drew and Sheamus tag match against Miz and Morrison, which wouldn't have been interesting even if McIntyre hadn't easily beaten both men in a handicap match just a few weeks before. The shining light of all of this is Gangs of New Sheamus, and his slow-building heel turn on Drew. As annoying as he is, Miz did a great job getting over how Sheamus has been overshadowed by McIntyre in a Miz TV segment, and in the actual main event match, where it's time to bust some heads and drink some kegs, Sheamus was taken out by being thrown over the barricade, which is currently the most devastating move in all of sports entertainment. What's behind there? A 20-foot drop. This let AJ hit a phenomenal forearm for the DQ, and he brilliantly tried to get Miz to cash in the briefcase because he'd rather face Miz for the title than Drew. McIntyre powered back though, so that huge guy carried off a trash-talking Styles to close the show, which was a very funny visual, but not one that got me excited for an eventual match. What did you think of Raw? Let me know in the comments. And follow us on Twitter at WrestleTalk_TV to vote in our poll on a poll match, where 52% of you rated the episode as good, which that guy Straup clarified as a low good. I like Cedric and Xavier, the triple threat, and AJ trying to get The Miz to cash in. The rest of Raw was so-so. I think WWE are definitely putting more care into how they structure their shows, with TV matches getting video packages, which I appreciate, but very little on this episode stood out to me. This week's Raw is poor. WWE has banned Chris Jericho references on commentary. Find out what's happening by clicking the video on the right. And what are the 10 greatest one-off entrances in wrestling history? Click the video below that for Adam Blompier's latest list, and make WrestleTalk.com your homepage for all the latest wrestling news. I've been Mr. Davis. Jam that jam.